Hello, everybody at home today. I hope that you are doing well. We didn't quite get our Screencastify, the program that we use to tape these, working, so you missed out on our practice, but you guys do have access to the videos. We were just practicing what the associative property of multiplication is. So today, as we begin our stories, or as we begin our work, we are working with multiplication stories today. Oh, there it is. So I can use multiplication to solve story problems. My thoughts on this are that, yes, we can solve things by using addition, but that takes a long time. Luke and I just had this conversation a little earlier when we were talking about the number 450, which has 45 tens, or it has 10 45s. And Luke thought it would be a fun challenge to count by 45s, which is up to him. But then when I asked him which is faster, he agreed that counting by tens is faster. Remember, multiplication is just repeated addition, but multiplication is faster. Most of you are looking for a faster way to get your work done. So who all is all looking for a faster way to get your work done? Raise your hand. Nearly everybody in the class wants to find a faster way to get their work done, which is why we do multiplication. So again, multiplication is a faster form of figuring something out. So as we work on our things today, I need to find my glasses so I can read this. We are going to use ratio tables to help us figure out our story problems. You have seen that I use ratio tables actually to multiply. And that we don't have to put every single step of the way when we do a ratio table. So for example, when I'm talking about ratio tables and multiplication, if I'm going to do a ratio table that represents, let's see. Let's have it represent, I'll draw a stick and we'll see what number we're representing. Addison, we drew her name, her number is 16. So we have a ratio table of 16. Notice how I'm starting to refer to our ratio tables. So this is a ratio table of 16, which means one group of 16 makes 16. Well, we possibly could end up with 16 times 8. Some of you already are thinking of the distributing process and doing the multiplication. For some of you, distributing doesn't work real well. And so we're going to practice what ratio tables can do for us. So I always tell you to think about doubling. Okay, so I remember we're going to do our first double. What is 1 doubled? David? 2. What is 16 doubled? David? 32. Okay, well, we're not to 8 yet, are we? Okay, but what do we know about 2? Can 2 be doubled?
Yes.
Yes. So let's double 2 again. What is 2 doubled? Somebody else. 2 doubled. Millie? 4. What is 32 doubled? Akaya? 64. Well, are we to the 8 yet? No. Okay. Well, what should we do now? David? Double it again. What's 4 doubled? I need a new volunteer. Okay, Brooklyn, what's 4 doubled? This one's a little more difficult. What's 64 doubled?
128.
Yes, Brooklyn? 128. Okay, so all we did was double and double and double. Remember way back when, an 8, it's a double, double, double. All the way from way back when. And you know what? Next year, you guys are going to do this in 5th grade, and you're going to say, I never saw this before. Yes, you did. It's even on tape, recorded. Okay. Now, not all the time do we have a nice, easy number to multiply with. What if we're multiplying 16 times 12?
16 times 2 and 16 times 10.
Yep, but we're working with ratio table right now. But you're right, that does work. What you seeing, David?
Can I write it on the...
Can you tell us about it or come over? Okay, David wants to come over and talk to us about this. I'm not going to let you divide this. We're not going to distribute to 12. That's what Luke wants to do, and I know that, but we're working with ratio tables.
Can I write it?
Sure.
So what I would do is I would take the 16 first, and then I would basically do this, and then I know I have 128 for that. So then I would do another one, but with 12, and then what I would do is I would do that. Whatever my answer would be, I would 128 plus whatever the 12 answer would be.
Oh, okay. So how many 12s? Okay. How about, anybody have any thoughts of what we can do on this table? What number do we need to get to? Are we on 12 on this side? Are there any numbers on there that can make a combination of 12?
Yes.
What numbers do you see? Addison. 8 and 4. We're going to add those two together. What's 8 plus 4? 12. Okay, so now if we added the 4 and the 8 together, we basically did this right here. So what should we do on this side, Addison? If we added those two together, what do you think we should do with the stuff on this side? If you're saying something, I can't hear you. What you think, Luke?
Add 64 and 128.
Yeah, we're going to add this right here. We added this side. Now we're going to add this side. Okay, so what is 4 plus 8, everybody? 12. Oh, goodness, we got a lot of 12s going on. I'm going to carry my 10. So now we have 2 10s, 6 10s, and 1 10.
90.
Okay, so we have 90, or 9 10s, 90. And we have a 100 we need to bring down. So what is our answer now? Okay. Do you realize that you can do any combination on here? What if I needed to do 16 times 13? How could I use my ratio table to figure it out now? Luke.
Use 12 plus 1.
12 plus 1. What's 12 plus 1?
13.
Okay.
16 plus 100.
16 plus 192. Notice how I'm putting this over here after my mistake I made last week when I couldn't add 19s. That was a problem. So I just moved it over here so I don't get mixed up. Okay, so we have 6 plus 2. What's that? Okay, we have 1 10 plus 9 10s. Okay, so that's 10 10s. I'm going to put my extra 10 over here with my 100 because 10 10s makes 100. 208. So through ratio tables, we can do a lot of this. Yes.
For 208,
Yes.
when we were doing the 16 one, it looks like something times, or that ratio table times 2,208.
Oh, with all that extra stuff?
Yeah.
And looking at David's thing over here, I could think of this where I could jump this. Here's a 10, 160. And then I just have to add 16 3 times. Or if I know that 16 and 16 doubled is 32 plus another 16 is 48. So remember, you can always jump to a 10 right away too. Because you can add your ones repeatedly if you need to, and you can jump to a 10. So we could have separated it out that 16 and one group of 16, and then we could have done it 3 times to get our 3 groups of 1, or 1 group, 3 groups of 16, I mean. And then we can get our 10 times 16, and we could add that together. Okay. So getting into our workbook today. For those of you at home, we are on page 65. Please notice that page 64 will be assigned later. So we are on page 65 in our Bridges workbook. Notice that this lesson goes on for a while. So today we're going to work this through. We're going to see how far we get with this. When we get back from gym class, some of you are working on this. Some of you are finishing your assessment that you didn't finish last Thursday before we get into social studies. So here we have actually it's Riley's ratio table. Is everybody on page 65?
Yes.
Oh my. It says Riley made this ratio table, but you can only see part of it. You can only see part. Now what? That happens. Maybe the tape let go. Maybe the glue let go. So what do you do now? You've got part of it. How do we figure out what number Riley used? Okay, hold on, Luke. I want the others to think too. Those of you at home, think about it. What can you do to figure this out? Okay, Will's got an idea too.
198 plus something equals 220. Look at the 20 and then look at the 98. Minus 20 and then that would be 200. So then it's 22.
Okay, so did you hear how Will thought of it like this, like 220 minus 198. And then he even had a strategy to make the subtraction easier. So he was thinking of it on a number line. I'm changing this into a number line up here, where he's at 220. He knew that he jumped back to 200, which he said was 20, and then he jumped back 2 more to make 198. How many of you have realized that you could use this number line thing on the top here? Okay. Now there are other ways to do this. So again, Will is thinking like a number line, and that's a very good strategy. What did you figure out, Luke?
I saw the 10. So I stuck the 20. Then I took the 0 away from the 220.
Okay, be careful with taking the 0. You're thinking of it like how many groups of, we have 10 groups of what? I want you to get used to thinking of 10 groups of 22. We have 10 groups of 22. So Luke is going to think about it like this. Here's our 10s. Here's our 1s. I'm saying 10 because that's a 10. He says there's a 0 in the 1s, which gives us 22 10s. David, how did you figure it out?
I was going to ask, can I go to the bathroom?
In 10 minutes. How many of you looked at the number 220 and then thought about how much more you have to do to get to 242? This has got to be the first year no one thought about that way. But then again, this is the first year that somebody actually did a number line to figure it out. So it balances out. Because you can also look to see how much it changed. So what did Riley use to make her table? Letter A is what number? Raise your hand. Letter A is what number? If we had the 1 way up on top, if this was a 1, what number goes right here? We have crickets. Luke, what number is, what kind of table, ratio table are we making? What will we name it? It's a what table? Oh, you weren't here to know that. Let's look at our ratio tables. Our ratio tables have names. This ratio table is an 18s ratio table. It counts by 18s. It's a 22. Yes, it's a 22 ratio table. It counts by 22. Uh-oh. Now we have to figure out what's in the 13th row. How do we figure that out? What do we do here? We're on 11. They don't tell us what 13 is. What do we do? Right now I want you to work on your table groups. See if you can figure this out. I'm going to pause the video. Hello, and we're back, and here we go back to our workbook. Who has some ideas on what they want, how they would do this? Okay, David's table, what did you do?
What I did was, I knew 11, and then I counted up to 13, and I knew that was 2. So if I doubled that, and then doubled 242, I'd get 242 times 2, which equals 484, which I got.
Okay, be careful with that. You're correct in what that you had in times 2. But it's not that you times 2, you added 2. You added 2 groups. Okay? What did you do, Luke?
So our table, we took 11, and so on the other end it's 242. So, but then, so that we know the answers, so we have to add 2 to get to 13. So we took the number 22 and doubled it, and that's 44. And 242 plus 44 is 286.
Okay, so David, you understood that you had to get from 11 to 13, and that's 2. Very good. And now what you did is what a lot of people do, where you're thinking, okay, well, I just doubled because I was only going to get 2 more. But we have to think about how are the numbers related? So if we actually drew out our ratio table, which some of the people are doing, where we're at 11, we're at 11 and 242. Now we're to 12, which means we added 1 group. When we add 1 group, the groups are of 22, so we added 1 group of 22. Now we're going to add another group of 22. Okay, did I add that correctly? After my problem last week, I got to make certain I've added these correctly. 286.
Nice.
Thinking about this now, there are several ways to come up with what is in row 5. And there's one way that's easier than you realize. But I'm not going to say that yet, because otherwise I'm doing your work. So who figured out what is in row 5? How many of you weren't that far yet? How many of you weren't that far yet? You guys are still working on it? Okay. You guys are done? You guys are still working on it? Are you guys done? Okay, you guys are still working on it? Okay. For those of you who are finished, those of you at home, we're going to pause while we work. You guys pause too while you work. Okay, we have a lot of people working together out there, and we're going to ask for a few strategies. Who would like to tell me how you figured out row C? Looks like the only hand in the air is Luke's table. So Luke's table, what did you guys do?
We split 220 in half because 10 divided by 2 is 5, and that we have to do that on the other end of the ratio table too.
Okay, so what, if you couldn't hear what Luke said, he's looking at the number 10 and he knows that 5 is half of 10. So he split 10 in half to get 5. And then what did you do?
Then we divided it in 2 and figured out it was.
Okay, so then they looked at 100 or 220. Half of 200 is what? Half of 200 is what? Tucker's table. Half of 200 is what? Yes, sir. 100. Half of 20 is what? 10. So 100 plus 10 is 110. Did anybody else figure that out another way? Did anybody draw the ratio table starting at 1 just to make certain you knew that you were right? Okay, good. So you were being thorough. Okay, we are going to continue working on page 65. Those of you at home, make certain that you have finished page 65. Then go back and work on page 64. So those of you at home, your assignment 64, 65. Tomorrow we are going to finish with 66 and 67. Okay, so we are going, well, they're actually working and then they're going, but we are leaving you. So have a nice day, all of you at home.
Bye.